Two e-commerce giants recently reported earnings: Argentina's Mercado Libre and China's Alibaba. Mercado Libre, known as the Amazon of Latin America, saw significant growth in gross merchandise volume, up 43% year over year. Meanwhile, earnings per share came in at $3.97. That was 30% higher than analyst estimates. Alibaba missed expectations on revenue and EPS, but it announced it will spin off its cloud division as a separate publicly traded company. Scott, that's something you've suggested Amazon should do with AWS for a while now. Now, we spend a lot of time focusing on Amazon, but we rarely look at its international competitors. Scott, what are your initial reactions to these earnings?
So Mercado Libre is probably the most impressive company, would you say that? Probably in Latin America. It's really well run. The revenue grew 78% in 2021, 50% in 2022, and 58% in Q1 2023. And this is off a big base. I mean, this company is, kind of the little Amazon that could. Their operating margins increased from 3% in 2020 to 10% in 2022 on the integration of their ad network. And this is several times higher than Amazon's operating margins. And it's profitable. And again, see above 58% growth in Q1. That's just striking. Mercado Libre, you would argue, is a teenager, not a mature adult like Amazon right now. But it's doing incredible. Amazon went public in 1997, Mercado Libre 10 years later in 2007. In terms of value, Amazon trades at 25 times EBITDA, and Mercado Libre is at 38. So the market has reacted. The one that's probably the value here is there was so much overhang, even with their recent run up. There's so much overhang on Chinese stocks because of the CCP's involvement and willingness to just shut companies down overnight. Alibaba only trades at 12 times EBITDA. So that's probably if you were looking for a value play. But we spend so much time talking about Amazon, we don't talk about the other guys. And I think Alibaba spinning its cloud unit is exactly what Amazon should do. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point that cloud unit is worth more than Alibaba itself.
Yeah, you mentioned the sort of government risk discount that you're seeing with Alibaba at 12 times EBITDA. A couple things. One, when you say that's a buy, are you basically implying that you don't feel that the risk is that urgent? I assume the reason that the 12 times EBITDA multiple is there is because they're pricing in that government risk. And then the other side of this is Mercado Libre, which is based in Argentina, but there's also government risk there. I mean, the Argentinian government has defaulted 9 times on its debt, most recently in 2020. There's this really long history of government corruption. I saw that just a few months ago, the country's vice president was sentenced to 6 years in prison for fraud. Do you not think that government risk and our lack of ability to trust these governments is something that investors should be thinking about when they look at these stocks?
It's absolutely something they should be thinking about. And I mean, the play was to buy Alibaba, I think, in November. And since then, I think it's up 50 or 70% when it was trading at 7 or 8 times EBITDA. And people thought, well, she and the CCP have basically decided that, capitalism and their thoroughbreds, these amazing companies, are there. I mean, in the U.S., we basically err on the side of the private sector. We have a ton of respect for companies, and we let our horses run, so to speak. In China, they were doing that. China's a much different place than it was 10 years ago. And then she came in and said, yeah, fuck that. You want to shitpost me? I'll disappear your ass, and you can show up painting in Tokyo. And, we think you're bad for middle class in terms of this huge tutoring industrial complex. We're just going to shut you down. Oh, you don't want to share your data? Oh, you don't want to share your data, did he? Fuck you. We're going to put you out of business. So, and here we have laws and senators who like to claim they're pro-business and want to protect the private sector and say this is the engine of growth. This is what makes America great. The call we made, and we actually picked Chinese internet stocks in our predictions deck in November of 2022 as being the best performing sector. And we got that right was because I don't think she is going to, I think he's going to cut off the fingers, but I don't think he's going to cut off limbs of his thoroughbred, so to speak. And I think that the private sector kind of got the message and said, okay, let's be honest. He's in charge and the CCP is in charge. And now these companies are have had huge run-ups. And even though it's at 12 times, it was at 8 times. So the question is,
Hmm.
do you think they're going to come in and, pull another like heavy-handed move? The market is clearly saying, I don't know the dynamics between the Argentinian government, which has proven itself incompetent. I don't know if Mercado Libre basically
Hmm.
has its own government and is able to, for whatever reasons, the market just doesn't see it as a risk. They see Mercado Libre as bigger than the government, as doing its own thing. I don't know, politically connected. I don't know what it is, but it doesn't appear to have slowed it down at all. So, but absolutely government risk. One of the reasons that the S&P always trades at, or typically trades at a higher price to earnings multiple than other markets, is people do have a lot, when I say people, investors globally do have a lot of respect for rule of law, think that
Yep.
you can't have an event where all of a sudden one guy, she moves in and kills a company, that we have, due process. And as a result, capital flows into our market like no other market in the world. But I, to return to Alibaba, I think that was an unbelievable buying opportunity because the CCP still
Hmm.
wants to bring tens of millions of people out of poverty. Otherwise, they have a revolution on their hand.
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. It feels like, you talked about how the US is valuing the private sector. It feels like there's this feeling that the US will do anything it can to protect multiples, and China just doesn't give a fuck. So what? Alibaba's at 12 times and Amazon's at 25 times. But it's interesting. We'll keep track of it.